Wander Wealthy Podcast, episode 256. Welcome to the Wander Wealthy Podcast. My name is Tess Wicks. I'm the host of this show, founder of Wander Wealthy, and financial coach turned business coach for all my fellow money coaches out there in the world. Whether you're brand new to this space or you're pretty seasoned and maybe not seeing the results you want, or you just want some great tips, this podcast is for you. We talk all things marketing, sales, being a better coach, building a life-changing coaching program, and the mindset that falls all the way in between every single one of those things. And this week, we have a great episode in store. I'm about to share with you 10 different ways that you can talk about your money coaching offering without sounding desperate. So strap in, we're about to get into it, but before we do, I need to introduce you to this week's sponsor, which is the Client Attraction Content Matrix. Here's the deal. If you need to talk about your offering, you need a marketing strategy. And the best way that I know how to market an online coaching business, leveraging social media, is with content marketing. Using strategy and blending it with your creative tools will allow you to create relevant and hard-hitting content that makes your ideal clients build trust in you and ultimately want to buy, because you'll be able to communicate what they need, but also what they want in a money coach and serve that up to them on a platter. The Client Attraction Content Matrix is a tool that I use on a weekly basis within my business. And I wanted to offer it to my clients who are money coaches and looking to build an omnipresence in their space. And I thought, I'm just going to share the tool with them. I'm just going to help them learn how to blend that science with the creative art of content creation. So you're going to get access, if you sign up for the Client Attraction Content Matrix, to the matrix itself, along with a fully built out content calendar and an actual mini course that takes you through the back end, the understanding of how the matrix is built, so that you know how and why you're creating this relevant, high converting content. You can head to wanderwealthy.com/content to get your hands on the matrix. And by the way, when you sign up, you're also going to be getting a bonus, which is 160 content prompts that you can use in your money coaching business. They are especially created by me for money coaches, financial coaches, wealth coaches, and it's different prompts that actually fit perfectly into the matrix. So you know that these prompts are backed by the strategy of marketing with hard-hitting content. And what's especially special about this and the episode in general is I'm going to be giving you a little bit of a taste of some of those prompts, because when we talk today about 10 different ways to talk about your offering, that is content marketing. And so I'm pulling some of those prompts and sharing them with you to showcase how you can seamlessly bring your offer into conversation. And that's what you do when you have a content marketing strategy, is learn how to talk about you, your expertise, position yourself as an authority, but also sell what it is that you have to offer so that you can actually have a business and make a bigger impact in the world. So wanderwealthy.com/content to get your hands on the Client Attraction Content Matrix suite of a mini course, a tool, and all the bonuses. And I just know you're going to love it. And it's going to be a tool you're going to use for forever in your business. And I built it for you with love. All right. Let's talk about how to talk about your offering without sounding desperate. I know that one of the biggest things that keeps money coaches from getting clients is that they don't know how to talk about their offer, and they're afraid to do so because they're afraid of sounding salesy, they're afraid of sounding desperate. And By the way, that little salesy word, we talked about it last week. And so there's a mindset component to this. And we dug into that last week by talking about some beliefs around sales that are keeping you clientless. And if you need a refresher, I would definitely head to episode 255 to review that. But once you work on that, right, you can work on that and then get to this episode and go, okay, I'm working on my mindset around sales. I'm working on getting comfortable with seeing that selling is really an act of service, right? We're just exchanging value. But now I need to know, how do I actually do it? How do I actually initiate the conversation? How do I actually talk about my money coaching program? And that's what we're here to discuss today. I'm going to share with you things that you can actually say that'll make it easier for you to feel like, oh yeah, this is just part of the conversation. This is just part of doing business. And these are some ways I can say it so that it's not always sounding like an infomercial. And you're not alone. If you feel like every single time you talk about your program, you feel like an infomercial, it might be because you do. And it might be because we have been inundated with talking about sales in this one way for so long. And we don't realize that there are other very natural ways to bring it into the conversation and to allow yourself and other people, which, by the way, it's more you that thinks maybe you're talking about your offer too much. Other people are pretty numb to that. They're like pretty open to hearing about the fact that you have something to sell because that's what a business is. But if you feel like you're talking about it too much, then this is a way to kind of circumnavigate the very direct, sell-y kind of way to do it. All right. Now, before I get into these 10, you can kind of think about them as prompts, but they're also a little bit more, I want to leverage them, share with you like what you could say or the type of post you could create or the type of content you could create. But I also want to share with you, some of my thoughts around each one and why it circumnavigates this like very direct, potentially desperate sounding or salesy sounding approach to talking about your offer. But before we do, there's a prerequisite here. There's actually a couple prerequisites so that you can make it very easy to talk about your offer. I'm sorry, I'm going to say talk about your offer a lot because that's the point of this episode. Okay, but the prerequisite is that first and foremost, you got to have an offer, right? And this is one of the main things that we focus on inside of my signature one-on-one coaching program, the Wealthy Coach Blueprint, is actually creating a life-changing offer for the clientele. So my clients are money coaches for my money coaches clients, right? We need to focus on creating an offer that's fully ideated. So many money coaches know that they want to help people with their money, but they don't quite know what that looks like. And they really struggle to then articulate the value because so often when we think about coaching, we just think about, pay for a one-off session or pay me for 3 calls or it's really like this package of sessions as opposed to seeing it as a full transformation. So you got to have an offer, but I invite everyone to take it a step further beyond just like you're going to get a 6-call coaching package and really install into your offer a framework or a process that you've specifically developed for your ideal clients. So this is how we take it that extra step further inside of the Wealthy Coach Blueprint by doing the research into the ideal clientele for each of my clients and identifying what they need first and foremost, but then also a type of solution that they'd really desire so that we can create something that feels like a full holistic solution for them. And then it makes it a little bit easier to sell. Now, what's beautiful about having a framework is it not only makes it easier to sell and instills confidence into your ideal clients to want to work with you because they go, oh, she actually has, or he actually has, or they actually have a process, a framework, something that we're going to follow. But it also makes it way easier to market your offering because you have so much more to talk about then besides work with me, you're going to get 6 sessions and we're just going to work on whatever it is that you need. Well, do you know what they need? If we know what they need, we can talk a lot about that, and we can create a framework to help them transform. So this is why it's important to do that work first. If you need a refresher on building a framework for your money coaching business, head to episode 195. I've covered that already, so we can talk about that over there. All right, without further ado, if those prerequisites are checked off, or if you're like, okay, that's on the to-do list, but I still want to hear different ways that I can talk about my offer, let's get into it. Way number 1 is to tell your story. Now, here's the deal. This is an assumption that you've gone through your own transformation. Now, does it have to be the exact transformation that you want to facilitate for your ideal clients? Not necessarily. You absolutely can sell a coaching program that helps your clients get results that maybe you've kind of had from the beginning. But I'm willing to bet that you still have a transformation, that there are bits of the things in your own transformation that you had to leverage, bits of the process that you're going to introduce to your clients that you had to go through, or maybe a mistake that you made that if you had known better, now you're going to teach that to your clients, right? So we want to tell your story because first and foremost, storytelling is like the most natural human thing to do. And it's a really great marketing tool because humans are super attracted, I don't know if that's the right word, but very compelled by great stories. And it's a really, like I said, natural thing for you to do, but also we can very naturally lead into you talking about your offer. Now, the storytelling trope, I guess you could say, that I like to use and that I introduce and leverage for my clients, maybe it's an outline or just kind of a way that we like to build our stories as easy as possible. Now, you can tell your story however you want, but if you need a little bit of a suggestion, I always suggest by starting your story, kind of sharing where you were before this transformation that you went through, the roadblocks that you were bumping up against, the problems, the issues that, you wanted to get started, but then, this happened, or these are the things that were holding me back. And then share the things that you had to do to get over those roadblocks, to get through those things that were holding you back. So this is where you get to really pull in some of the pieces of your framework or your process to say, I finally committed to doing X, Y, and Z so that I could get this end result. And now I'm here. And as I reflect, that's how my XYZ process was born. So by telling your story, you can take them through this kind of emotional roller coaster with you, showcase that you are integrity with what you teach because you've taken your life lessons, mistakes, failures, but also potentially some successes, and you got to a point and now you want to help them do the same. Now, I always want to make the kind of disclaimer that you do not have to be a fully realized person, at the top of the pyramid. You don't have to have made it. You don't have to have achieved everything you ever wanted in life to be able to help others. You might just have to be 2 to 3, even 1 step ahead of them. And if you can look back and learn something and then help someone get to where you are because that's where they want to go, then it's natural to pull from the lessons that you learned and pull them into your framework and then teach them to your clients and hold the space and hold them accountable to fulfilling the goals that they want to achieve. Okay? So number 1, tell your story and find the overlap between what you did to get to where you are and the framework that you're facilitating for your clients, and let them know that that's how that framework was born. Number 2 might be a little bit obvious, and actually we have like 3 obvious ones coming up next, but I think that they're relevant. And I think people still kind of shy away from using these because, again, they just don't feel like they're allowed to talk about their offer, when in fact, you're 100% allowed to talk about your offer. Remember, this is a business. People expect you to do this. All right. So number 2 is just to make an announcement. program name, whatever your program name is, I might say the Wealthy Coach Blueprint is open for enrollment. That's totally acceptable to let people know that you are open for business. And it might seem obvious, but so few of us actually do it because we feel like we're not allowed to. And here I am just giving you permission to make the announcement. And I think maybe some of us don't do it because we're afraid that it's just going to be crickets, but you know what? It's okay. It's not going to be crickets every time. It might be your first time and you're going to learn from that. You're going to learn, how do I tweak this? How do I make it more exciting for my clientele? How do I make sure that I'm attracting more of my clientele so that the next time I announce enrollment is open or that I'm launching, that people respond or that people sign up? That's part of the process. I remember when I first launched like my first ever course or whatever it is, I almost never actually wanted to launch. I never wanted to do group programs. I never wanted to do anything because I was just terrified that no one would sign up. Well, you know what a surefire way to get nobody signing up for your program is? By never talking about it, by never launching, by never opening it up and making that public. So at the very least, if you put it out there, you might get one person, and okay, maybe your goal was 10, but like you still got one person, and that one person still deeply needs your help. So don't take that for granted. So it might be obvious, but you're allowed to announce that your program is open for enrollment, or that it's ready for launch, or that it's ready for clients, however you want to frame it, but you're allowed to do that, and you're allowed to do it more than once. I think a lot of people think they're only allowed to like launch a program once or open it up once, and then they have to find other different creative ways to talk about their program. But that's not the case. You can make that announcement every month or every quarter or however often you need to drive people to what it is that you have to offer. Number 3, another potentially obvious one, but again, one that people really shy away from, and that is sharing a client testimonial. Now, if you want a way to share a client testimonial without it just being kind of like the very typical general way of sharing a testimonial, is instead of just like posting the testimonial and like putting quotes around it, you want to frame it so that people understand that this is something I need to read. And, sharing client testimonials is great by just taking the quotes and sharing them so that people can really see like what your client said. But you could maybe think about this post as more of, maybe it'd be kind of like a case study where you're sharing what your client was able to achieve in your own words. You know what the client was able to achieve, and you share that, and then you kind of explain or talk about the program and the aspects of the program that helped them get there. Because client testimonials, when you ask a client for a testimonial, they're not always going to get into those details or kind of share the testimonial in the way that prospective clients need to see so that they can see, oh, this is going to also be applicable to me. I can see how this is going to work for me. And so you're not going to say that like my client said this and then make that up. Definitely don't do that. Like you can have the client's quotes, testimonial aside from it, but you're also allowed to create content that showcases how your work with a client worked and showcases the results and showcases the process you took them through and how they got there. And that's totally okay too. You might, depending on the relationship and the consent you get from the client, you could leave the name out. You could ask for permission to utilize their name and share the financial results. But, that's going to depend on the actual relationship and the consent you receive. But here's how you could kind of introduce a client testimonial that's a little bit different than just, again, sharing that quote. And that would be to say, my client was able to achieve, and then you would insert what they are able to achieve without, and then insert doing something that your ideal clients don't typically want to do in order to get results. And then you would say, here's how. So here's how, and then you'd walk them through that process. So, something that would be, I'm just going to use an example off the top of my head that I think a lot of people, it's a little bit overused now, but I'm just going to use it because I'm making it up on the fly. So my client was able to save a $3,000 emergency fund without giving up her daily latte. Here's how, right? This is something that, you might think of a typical, maybe not typical, but just an ideal client that you might want to work with who is sick of this, like, cut out your avocado toast and your daily latte. Now, I think those are a little bit overused. I think we can come up with more creative things in 2022, but I just wanted to use an example, is that when you can showcase that you can get client results without them having to do some of these extreme things or these things that are rules that are passed down by 60-year-old plus men that are saying, well, this is what you got to do to get your financial goals, then obviously you can showcase that you have a different take, that you have a different process, that you can take them through something that will be enjoyable, but also will get them results. So that's how I would frame that, is my client was able to achieve such and such desired result without doing something that they absolutely do not want to do. Here is how. And then you would walk them through it. All right. Number 4, a little bit less obvious, but still potentially easier than you thought it had to be. And this is it. My X-step process to achieve the desired result that your ideal client wants to achieve. And now you would just share your framework. Yes, it's as simple as that. So if your framework is, okay, step 1, take inventory. Step 2, get them on a budget. Step 3, set up savings accounts. Step 4, get a debt reduction plan. Get a debt reduction plan in place. Let's just say those are the steps. So it's a 4-step process that you're taking your clients through. So now you're just going to say, my 4-step process to achieve financial freedom for Gen Z, right? Or, however you want to frame that. You're saying, I have a process that gets results for this type of person. And now you're going to talk about your program. But you're framing it in a little bit of a different way than just like, I have a program, you should buy it, right? You're going to introduce them to this process that you've developed for this particular person to achieve this particular result, and then you walk them through it, okay? Number 5 is one of my favorites because I think so few people actually do this, a behind the scenes look at, insert your program name. And then you would say how and why I structured my program for incredible client results. Okay. This you can kind of take in many different ways. So it depends how you want to do this. If you want this to be a video or a podcast, you can walk them through it. Video or any sort of visuals, you can take screen grabs of what your program actually looks like and showcase why that tool is important to your clients' ideal, desired result and how they're going to achieve it. And then also just walking people through why or how this 4-step process will get them there, or why it will get them there. Why does it work? And this is an opportunity for you to take people behind the scenes, literally, and it's a very different angle, but you're still talking about your program, but it doesn't come off as like, please buy my program right now. We're ready. It's going to get you X and Y and Z. Instead, it's a very kind of honest way to just show people what you've been working on and how excited you are about it and how much thought and time and effort went into making sure that this program is going to work for your clientele or how it is currently working for your clientele. And that's something that's really special. Never be afraid to share pieces of your program that feel really highly valuable to the public. I think so many people are afraid to do that because they're afraid people will copy it or won't then make the investment. And, a lot of people try to do that. I try to do that. I'll take screenshots of these behind the scenes and then I'll try to recreate it. But honestly, it's never as good as the actual thing. And I never get the results as well as when someone actually explains to me why and how that's created and holds me accountable to implementing it and gives me the actual tool instead of me trying to like finagle something together. So yes, I am a frugal Frederica trying to make my business work, but there is a time and place for making that investment. And, when you think about your clientele, even, we are money people. We are probably people who want to get scrappy, but your clients most likely aren't as willing to do that. And so they're going to see this person has the tools. This person has the framework. They're going to hold that space for me, hold me accountable, take me through these steps. I'm ready to work with them. Sign me up. And what taking someone behind the scenes does is it showcases that. And it also gives them a taste of what it's really like to work with a financial coach, because so many people have no idea what that looks like. A lot of people don't even know financial coaches exist. And so if it's your first time dipping your toe into the coaching space in general, I think you might be a little bit nervous. You might be wondering, well, what is that going to be like? And by you kind of showcasing what that looks like, it helps calm their nerves and instill confidence in themselves and wanting to work with you. And speaking of not knowing what it looks like to work with a financial coach, that leads us to the sixth way that you can talk about your program is kind of working around it and just letting people know what it's like to work with a financial coach, right? I think that is a very kind of obvious question, but so few of us actually answer it in our content marketing because we just assume people know, because most likely we have a bias of, well, we've been in this world, maybe you've hired your own coaches, or obviously you are a financial coach, so you know what it looks like, but you forget that your clientele have no idea and are really potentially confused or concerned about what that actually entails. So if you can take this prompt, what it looks like to actually work with a financial coach, and then give them a look at, you can walk them through your framework, the experience that you will be providing or that you have provided to your clients, and actually just kind of introduce them to that process. Naturally, you're going to be talking about your program, but in respect to answering this larger overarching question of what it looks like or what it's like to work with a financial coach. Okay, the seventh way to talk about your money coaching offering is to do a weekly or a monthly recap of what your clients were able to achieve in the last X number of days, okay, or what they got up to. So maybe if it's taking, if your clients haven't been able to achieve certain milestones, but they're doing a lot of work, go ahead and review that. So this is another way to talk about kind of client testimonials or client results without, again, leveraging just like the quote that your client shared. And that's where you just get to kind of do an end of week or end of month recap of what's gotten done. And so again, you're talking about your program. You're talking about the fact that you work with clients, which instills confidence in potential clients. You're sharing the steps that they're taking. And again, it doesn't have to be, one of my clients paid off $5,000 of debt, and another one of my clients bought their first house, and another one of my clients was able to save their fully fund their emergency fund. Like that, not all of that's going to happen in 1 week or 1 month, but you can, if any results happened, absolutely share them. But you can also just talk about, my clients are figuring out we've established a regular debt reduction plan to follow, and that will allow my client to get out of debt, 3 years earlier. We've also established, XYZ to allow my client to buy their dream home in the next 10 years. So instead of all of these things have already been achieved, you can talk about what they're getting up to, what they're working on. My client is applying for new jobs to increase her income by 10%, whatever that looks like, so that you can showcase that, things are happening and forward progress is happening. All right. Number 8, the only prerequisite to join the Wealthy Coach Blueprint, right? Insert program name here is, now I love this one because people already know about your program most likely, especially if you've been using all the other ones. And this doesn't have to be in order, by the way, but if you're following a content marketing strategy for yourself, if you're talking about, you're making a name for yourself in the space, you're establishing yourself as an authority, but you're also talking about your program, then people are going to know about it. But people will naturally have these doubts or these questions in their mind of if they're really ready to work with you or if you'll accept them as a client, especially if you have like an application process, or if the program is right for them based on where they're at in, their life. So some people will directly ask you, but not everyone will, because not everyone is as direct, right? So by actually just answering that, right, the only prerequisite to join my program, but I would put the program name is, and then go through it. And maybe it's something surprising, right? Because most likely it's not as complex or not as advanced or not as high level as people might make it out to be. So you want to kind of bust that objection that someone might be having, and maybe they're just telling themselves before they even allow themselves to sign up for a discovery or a sales call with you. And you can address that in your actual content. Now, what that does is you're addressing this, right? You're helping people see that, oh, the barrier to entry into my program is a lot lower than you might expect. But it's also an opportunity to talk about your program. So it's kind of a 2-for-1, or it's an awesome way to talk about your program without sounding desperate, because you're also kind of saying like, I have this program, this is the only prerequisite, but you're not saying, I have this program, if you need X, Y, and Z, sign up now, like get on it. I need your money. Okay. So the only prerequisite to join, and then you get to kind of establish yourself as the qualified authority who determines, who is ready for your program. And the trick here is, not to make the prerequisites like absolutely astronomical unless you have something like the only if your program is a program for 6-figure income earners, then obviously you would just say the only prerequisite to join the 6-figure money mavens club, I don't know, is to have a 6-figure income. But that's it. You don't have to do anything else. You could also have 6 figures in debt. You could also be confused. You could also be, I don't know, whatever. You get the point. Okay. Number 9, my approach to money coaching is a bit unconventional. Here's what sets my program, obviously insert program name, apart and why it works. Okay. So this is a fun one because there's obviously going to be something about your program that's different from the others. And if there's not, I would think about like, what is your unique selling proposition, your USP? Because that is what allows you to get an edge on the competition. And so you really want to think through what that could look like. And you can think about it in many different ways, but think about, what your ideal clients are seeing in their feeds or, out in the world, what they think their options are, and then let them know that like you have an unconventional approach compared to the options that they have available to them. And here's what sets it apart and why taking that unconventional approach actually works. Okay. So this is a way that, by utilizing this prompt, again, you're talking about your program, you're talking about what you're offering, but you're also allowing to kind of educate your clientele about a different approach to their money that whether they work with you or not, they can think about and go, oh, wait, if I actually stop trying to like budget myself to death and never spend money, then maybe I'll actually be able to save, and maybe all the other options for them are to do just that. And you're saying, you don't have to do that. And this is why it works. Okay. So all that being said, what this does is it positions you in the market as how you differentiate from the competition, but it's also such a great way to talk about your program without talking about it so explicitly. I mean, maybe this is more explicit than others, but it's still like taking a very different angle to the topic. All right, we have made it. We're now on number 10, the 10th way you can talk about your money coaching without sounding desperate. And this one might be oversimplified, but I think, again, it's necessary. And it's also a unique way to say it without being like, I need your money. And this is how you can work with me this month. And then insert all the different ways that someone might be able to work with you. So obviously, this is a way that you can let people know, oh, this month I have X spots available for my program. And then maybe you have a couple different offerings that you insert as well. And if you don't have a couple different offerings, that's okay. Maybe right now all you have is the program and you have X spots available. That's totally cool. But what you're doing here is you're really positioning yourself as, you know, hey, I happen to have some capacity for people to work with me, but you're really giving them the power to sign up, and you're kind of taking a power position in, not necessarily like, I don't need you, but you're just announcing that you're open for business, and these are ways that people can work with you if they're ready to jump on board during this period. So I think of it as a very natural way to let people know that there are openings without being like, I need your money right now, come work with me. And again, sounding like an infomercial. So that's it. Those are 10 different ways that you can talk about your coaching offering without sounding totally desperate. And I love each and every one of them because they really take a different angle, and you could actually use all 10 probably in a row, right? Like obviously maybe you want to mix them up because maybe some of them, they're not in any particular order, but you could use all of them in a row without interspersing all this other content. And I would say it would sound pretty natural. A lot of people get, into this fear zone of, oh, my content has to be 80-20, 80% educating and storytelling and inspiring and only 20% selling. And I'm like, what if we just did it all, always? Because that's the point of a business, is to let people know that, okay, we just talked about this major problem and how to solve it. And if you actually want to solve it, here's a solution that you can invest in so that we can work together. Like, that's what we're trying to do with content marketing. And that's what I hope that you see with this episode. And also if you get your hands on the Client Attraction Content Matrix, which you can do by heading to wanderwealthy.com/content. I know you're going to love it. I know you're going to use it all the time. So go get your hands on the awesome tool that I've developed just for you by going to wanderwealthy.com/content. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I always have a blast sharing some of these tips with you. If you have any requests or ideas or questions for the podcast, hit me up over on Instagram. I'm at Tess_Wicks, WICKS. And until next time, I hope you wander wealthy.